Hello again. I cannot help but be amused when I hear of the agonising over the name of this or that street because it has unpleasant connotations associated perhaps with Britain's imperial past. I mentioned earlier today the case of Havelock Road in the London district of Southall. This commemorates General Havelock, a Victorian soldier, part of whose career was spent in India. Of course, Ealing Council was keen to remove such an unsavoury character from their borough by renaming the road. A good case of decolonisation, no? Of course, this entirely overlooks the actual colonisation which has taken place in that street within living memory when Punjabis began living in the area. Havelock Road is now almost entirely Punjabi in character. It has in fact been colonised. This then is the great irony of the idea of decolonisation, that it has been precipitated by and made necessary by the colonisation of Britain by people from Africa and Asia. Whether this is a good thing or not is a separate question, but that it has happened is indisputable. Many liberal and progressive types assert that the country has been enriched and strengthened by this colonisation, while others say that it has caused a deterioration in the quality of life for the indigenous inhabitants. There may well be something to be said for both points of view, but what neither side can deny is that the character of the country has changed dramatically, and that this has, if not actually been caused by, is at the very least associated with unrestricted immigration. A personal perspective might illustrate this point and make it a little clearer. Until 23 years ago, I was living in Tottenham, which is in the London borough of Haringey. This is, and was then, a black ghetto, and my wife and I found that it was rapidly becoming an unsafe place to raise a family. So we moved to Loughton, a town in Essex which is just outside London. It's near Chigwell. When we moved here in 1999, the place was entirely white English, by which I mean literally that there were no black people, foreigners or immigrants in the area, apart from a handful of wealthy Indian businessmen who lived in the very biggest of houses with gated drives. They were Gujarati, needless to say. Today, the town is fast filling up with people for whom English is not the first language. In the row of houses in which I live, in a street off Rectory Lane, this is near the Debden estate, I can see what has happened very clearly. Looking 5 houses in one way and 4 in the other, my immediate neighbours in other words, I find that 1 is occupied by Bulgarians, 2 by Romanians and 2 by Pakistani Muslims. In other words, half the houses on this stretch of the street on my side are inhabited by people who speak Urdu, Bulgarian or Romanian in their gardens rather than English. They're not troublesome neighbours, far from it, but the truth is that I would rather hear people speaking English when I sit in my garden on Sunday rather than hearing Urdu or Bulgarian. The local church, St Nicholas in Rectory Lane, has been sold by the Church of England to the Romanian Orthodox Church. This means that on Sundays there is a traffic jam in the otherwise peaceful street, with no fewer than 70 cars belonging to Romanians parked up on the grass verges there. They drive to Loughton from all over London to come to the church. Then they look around the area, see how nice it is and buy houses here. This too is an aspect of colonisation that nobody wants to talk about. Walking to the local shops, I hear Romanian spoken by mothers with small children as often as I do English. In short, We moved from London to Essex, but immigration has followed us here and is now changing the essential character of what was once a little English town and turning it into a foreign enclave. This is a national phenomenon, of course, not one limited to my own area or personal experience. Every year we are solemnly assured that the most popular name for male babies born in the United Kingdom is some typically English name, such as Oliver or Hugh. This is untrue. For the last 5 years, the most popular name for boy babies born in this country has been Mohammed. There are, though, 11 different variations of spelling that name, and so we are able to maintain the fiction that an English name is the most popular. Just ponder for a moment upon that single fact that in Britain today the most popular name for boys is Mohammed. This is another part of colonisation, which it is felt indelicate to mention, that immigrants tend to have far more children than British people. There are whole schools now in this country without a single white British pupil, and in many more white British children are the minority. What I find fascinating about all this is that one seldom sees it being discussed openly in newspapers or on television. It is as though there is an unspoken agreement that we should pretend not to notice what is going on in our own country, or if we do, to claim that we are pleased about it and that it's a good thing. That is to me the strangest part of the whole affair, that the colonisation of my country should be undertaken in this way, and I am expected to make out that I haven't seen it happening.